Shalom everybody, Rabbi Edelstein here, again, with another installment of Rabbi E in 3, brought to you as always by MEOR, Washington, D.C. If you want to learn more about us, look at our website, MEORDC.com, or find us on Facebook, MEOR DC, and be in touch. So this week's Torah portion is the beginning of a new book of the Torah, Vayikra, Leviticus, the first portion in Leviticus. And this Shabbos is a new month, the month of Nisan, the month of redemption, the month in which Pesach occurs. So it's a double dose of newness, a new book of the Torah, a new month, and there indeed is a power of spiritual renewal at this time of year that each one of us can tap into. I want to share with you one idea in this week's Torah portion, the very first verse. God calls to Moshe from the tabernacle, from the tent of meeting. The tabernacle was erected. It was described in last week's Torah portion, the full completion of it, and God's presence rests in the tabernacle, and that's the place from which God is going to communicate to Moshe while the Jewish people are in the desert. And he calls to Moshe, Vayikra el Moshe, and he called to Moshe, and God spoke to him from the tent of meeting, from this structure, saying. And then the Torah records some of the laws of the offerings, which will be much of the focus of the book of Vayikra. But it says, and he called to Moshe, and God spoke to him, saying. It seems like this calling is set off from the rest of the communication, and it doesn't even say God called Moshe. That's clearly understood what it means, but it says, and he called Moshe. And the word, and he called, Vayikra, the Aleph in the Torah is written very small. That's a lot of strange things in that verse. Okay, and he called to Moshe. The commentaries explain the Torah is using a rather hidden way of communicating God's calling to Moshe. And the calling, by the way, in a simple sense, preceded the commandments that God would give to Moshe. And Rashi tells us that God spoke to Moshe in an endearing way, Moshe, Moshe, and called to him. But it's phrased in this hidden way, and he called to Moshe. Why? And the Aleph is small. Why? Well, without the Aleph, the word, take away the Aleph from Vayikra and you have Vayikar, which means, and it happened. It came to pass. It happened. Something that happened. The rabbis explain a beautiful idea. What happens in our lives, what seems to be just the normal events of our lives, God is calling to us through the events of our lives. Just like God called directly to Moshe to communicate to him, God calls to us in the happenings and happenstances of our lives, in the circumstances in which we're put, in the situations we find ourselves in the people we meet. It's hidden in the sense that we don't have a direct prophecy, but God is speaking to us through the events of our lives. Of course, he talks directly to us through the prophecy that is called the Torah, but in our lives too, Vayikra el, you and me, he's calling. And we should listen and open up our eyes and hearts, and this is a month of newness, to grab onto that, to look at our lives as a constant unfolding of possibilities and challenges to grow spiritually. That's why we're here on earth. Have a wonderful Shabbos and good Chodesh, a good new healthy month.